Hmm.
And we seem to, thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
501.
5:01. And the meeting is called to order. If I can get this thing off my screen. Oh, it's the wrong computer I'm using. Good. Okay. Um, all right. We don't have public be heard. We do have one guest, which is not a guest, who's Deborah. I think we're expecting Kirk, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure we are.
yes, as far as I know, he's going to be here.
Okay. Well, should we start with the approval of the minutes then, so we don't lose
Yeah,
time?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I
Deborah,
had one correction, and I know Deborah had some comments.
okay, great. Let's,
Okay.
Brinier and Larios has two N's in it.
okay.
R-I-N-N-I-E-R.
Where is that?
Brinier, and I don't have them in front of me, actually. I don't know.
Oh,
what to do them.
okay. Well, I could send them out.
What page is that on?
It's like the last page or second to last page.
Mhm.
It's on page 4.
Yeah, it's on page 4.
I'm just
In
gonna
the
make
notes,
them.
excuse me, in the notes, do I have to, in the notes, note the corrections?
Not really.
No, as long as, I'll take them and correct them, so.
Okay,
Or I think maybe if you just note to be
Yeah.
corrected and
Yeah, and then if we approve. we
approve
make
or
a motion
not
to
with or
approve.
without, I don't know.
Yeah,
Or-
we'll get the, yeah, you don't have to track the changes. Deborah, you,
just say minor corrections.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so I have a few in the under current business, the Housing Oversight Task Force section, just wanting to correct a few things that I know is very complicated. And it may be easier again
just do
for me to just send them to you.
Mhm.
Just for instance, they work mostly on the draft law for subdivision and zoning codes. So
Mhm.
that's what it is. And it was for both. And so there are things like that. And that the John Lyons land use attorney for the planning board and the county planning department reviewed.
Mhm.
So stuff like that. So I can
It's
just,
easier if you just make the corrections.
yeah, so I'm sorry I didn't get them to you.
That's
soon,
okay. Just
but I've gone through it and I've got everything.
make the corrections then.
And so that's no big deal.
Anything substantive?
The only thing, and I don't know where this came from, and I think Kirk might have said this, and I'm not sure, but I haven't looked at the recording, but it said that the HOTF hopes the process will take about 6 weeks.
Mhm.
That's not correct.
Mhm.
If we're fortunate, we don't know, it might take 6 weeks to have the public hearing. And then there's a process of comments that could be 2 more weeks. The town board could decide more, but it may be September, October before the process is concluded. And that's a hopeful, optimistic time frame.
Okay.
So I'll put all of that in here.
Great.
So that you have the record correct as far as we can make it.
Right. Okay.
So I recommend that we not approve until next month when Deborah can submit within that time a new updated document with her corrections.
Oh,
Is there second? Okay. And
that's fine.
okay.
I'll get them to you tomorrow or tonight.
Everybody agreed?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Howard had his hand up. Yes. Okay.
No, I was just voting.
Yes, that's what I meant. That's what
I
I
guess I
meant.
should vote too.
That's what I meant. Okay, great.
Okay.
So then,
I'm going to text Kirk and see if he's actually planning to come.
I spoke with him like an hour and a half ago and he was planning on coming, but maybe he needs to be reminded.
It's probably a good idea.
okay. So then, let's move to the site development update.
Okay.
Catherine and Howard.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just to recap our meeting at Brinier and Larios. That was a couple of weeks ago, I think.
How do you spell that again? Sorry.
Brinier.
Wait, what?
You're talking about Brinier and Larios?
Brinier and
Yeah,
Larios. Yeah.
Brinier.
Okay,
Larios, Larios.
thank you very much. And they're an engineering.
They're the town engineer.
Yeah, civil engineers.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we met with Dennis Larios and to review 2 sites in specific, the one on the 31 acres on Xena and the Simmons Drive parcel. And Dennis had done some, looked up some surveys online, and he was able to identify the soil type. We're talking about the Xena property right now.
Which Xena property are we talking?
Xena property. That's what we talked about first.
Town-owned.
Yeah, that's about 30 acres, isn't that?
Behind Sudbury, that one.
Yes.
The one
Yes.
with the road access.
Right.
Okay.
Near Stewart's.
Mhm.
So according to a USDA survey I guess anyone can find it online, it's got a C soil grade, which he said was not encouraging, and it's very close to bedrock. He said that the highway department could go around the property and do test holes to start checking, how the ground was and do a perk test. But he said because of the soil condition, they would have to, most likely we'd have to install a treatment discharge system, which is a kind of septic system that New York State has to approve, and you need a licensed operator 2 hours a day to operate the system. And the system itself would cost $700,000. So
Wow.
it didn't sound too promising. And after that, Bill was like, well, maybe we shouldn't look at that one first. So that was smart. Then we talked about Simmons. That one has a lot of advantages in that it's, adjacent to town water and town sewer. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out where the road access would be so that it wouldn't disrupt the neighbors on Simmons. And also where the sewer line would go through. And we spent a lot of time looking at the map and trying to figure out if it could go through Andy Lee Field. But later, on Friday, Bill told us that he didn't think Simmons was a good candidate for development because it would be too disruptive and the neighbors would get too upset, and people would get upset if we disrupted Andy Lee Field and et cetera, et cetera. So he seems to have lost interest in that one.
Can I ask maybe I'll hold my question.
Wait until.
Yeah, I'll hold my question.
Yeah.
No problem.
Write that down.
I will. I'm doing it. Sorry.
Then Bill asked Dennis, actually Dennis asked us, he said, so is there any properties you can buy, or is there anything, that seems like it would be available? And I said, well, not that we know. Everything's so expensive. And then he said, well, what about the water treatment plant parcel, which is 26 acres at the intersection of 212 and Xena Road. And the Little Deep is located in one corner. So, so we looked at that, and that looked promising, and not a lot of neighbors. And the treatment plant is sort of in one corner of it. So I said, I'm not sure about the optics of putting affordable housing near the water treatment plant. Actually, in the meeting, they were calling it.
That is what, excuse me, it's not a water treatment plant, isn't it a sewage treatment plant?
Yes.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
what they were calling it in the meeting, but then when I looked it up, it's called water treatment on the map.
Oh, water treatment, huh?
No,
interesting.
it's wastewater. It's a wastewater treatment plant.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's not
wastewater.
sewage per se.
Yeah,
Right.
Wastewater.
Yeah, and there was no odor that I could tell on Friday.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very environmental system.
Yep. So we said, okay, let's walk that one on Friday. Actually, we were going to walk Xena. No, sorry.
Simmons.
Simmons.
Yeah, and then it was changed to the water treatment plant property. So we walked that on Friday. Howard, Bill, Kirk came from the Housing Alliance. And it's a beautiful property. I was like,
Yeah.
shocked actually. Although
Yeah,
I'm imagining the, Land Conservancy or other groups might get upset, but it seemed like it had like one kind of ledge in the middle, but a lot of it was pretty level and buildable. And as I said, the plant didn't smell or anything. So, and we talked about possibly 3 different areas of clusters of housing, which could have access roads from Xena.
Does it include the field after the bridge? You're on 212, you take a right, kind of goes down the hill, it turns, go over
No,
bridge.
it's at the corner of
No.
Xena and 212.
There's a chain link fence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
very
as
heavily
you go
wooded.
along, as you approach the treatment plant, it starts there, and then you go all the way to Xena, you make the right turn, and the site continues until you get to I think it's called Little Deep.
Little deep.
The stream.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Is that the end of it, the stream?
pretty much, kind of near that.
Wow,
So-
that seems like not a lot of land.
Like a what?
Not very
Yeah.
much land.
Oh, there was, I think
26.
it was
I know, but like it
26
goes like
acres.
this, right? Doesn't it kind of go like
Kind
this?
of a triangle.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know if you could see this.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on.
Yeah, I can.
Let me orient myself. Okay, so it's basically, here's the treatment plant. Here's 212. And here's Xena Road.
Yeah.
So it's basically here and here.
It does cross the
It's
stream.
hard to see but here's the property line right here.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends over here. And the way it
Right.
slopes, it kind of goes, it starts high here, it
Yeah.
goes down and then it flattens, and it goes down and then it flattens, and it goes down and then it flattens. So there's 3 flat areas where you could put housing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all the access would be on Xena, which is a little bit of a slow, I think it's slower traffic on Xena, smaller road,
Mm-hmm.
which is not, and plus 212 is a state road, and so that's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We might have pushback on the people that go swimming.
Yeah, can I ask my question that I wanted to ask a
Yes.
while back? As long as we're having discussion, unless you want me to wait, I'll wait.
Do we want to switch?
No, I think,
over
did we
to
finish
Kirk?
the report? I wanted to just finish the report part and then go into whatever questions people have or comments.
Yeah, so the report is finished.
Well, I think I'd like to add, if I may, Catherine,
Sure.
Bill asked Dennis Larios, he was going to ask him if he could start to form an engineering report on this site. And he did produce a layout of, did you see that, Catherine?
Yeah, I did,
Mhm.
and I responded.
Yeah, it wasn't really creative, but he
No.
basically showed that, I think it was about 40 units, wasn't it?
Yes.
And also then another, I think a positive thing came out of that. He thought that Repco would be interested in it, that it was enough, there was enough land there, and it was the fact that there were hardly any neighbors around it, that Repco could be interested in this property. So they were going to arrange our next meeting with a representative from Repco.
Mhm.
to take a look at this. So it seems like it might be a possibility. Didn't you see that, Kirk? I see Kirk's here.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Kirk arrived.
Good.
Welcome. Can we just do a couple of the questions or comments Deborah and Urena both had?
Okay, so mine is very quick, and Howard partially answered that, because 26 acres is actually not so small for, depending on what kind of housing you're building. So like, for instance, we're talking in the zoning of triplex and quadplex buildings and a maximum of 8 units in one structure. So I guess I was wondering how Dennis viewed it in terms of number of units. Did he, either at that sewage treatment plant site or any of the sites, I mean, was he given any parameters in terms of engineering for X number of units? Or was it,
No.
you know, because 40 acres is a floating residential district in the new zoning, that's a certain kind of housing.
Mhm.
Other things are different with different, maybe lower impacts. So I'm just, that was my question.
Well, in the plan that he submitted, I believe that they were kind of multifamily units. They were buildings that contained, I think there were 4, 8, and was there 4, 8, and 16 units in those buildings, Catherine?
I believe so. I mean, I was
Yeah.
honestly surprised to see the site plan so soon, because we hadn't given any input as to what we were envisioning.
Yeah.
And a follow-up question then was there any discussion that there's new zoning coming which may affect what is actually permissible there? Did that come
I
up?
did bring that up when we met in Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's, Urena, what was your question?
Not a question, but I would just, I think the only, you know, obviously we have to think ahead, but the only pushback I could see is the swimming or stream,
Mhm.
you know, the environmental with the stream, or people that go swimming, because it sounds like that would be
Mhm.
changed up now, because it'd be sort of private property, I guess.
Well, I think it could be arranged such that
Yeah.
that people could still access that stream to, you know, to bathe in it. I don't think this development would necessarily affect that.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to, let's put it that way.
I mean, well, I
Yeah,
mean, depends
doesn't
if you're
have to.
living there, you want people walking by.
Well, that's, you know, that's a
Depends on how it's set
planning.
up.
That's a
Yeah.
planning thing. I think.
Yeah, and the housing wasn't all the way to the end over there, at least in the site plan that Dennis Larios produced. The
Mhm.
housing didn't go that far.
I think that site plan, that was just a very preliminary draft.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth sharing at this point with
Yeah.
anyone, honestly. And
Yeah.
I think we should keep it amongst ourselves, because
Definitely.
if anyone
Basically,
sees it, they may not be happy. So
he just made a parking lot with housing on either
yeah, it
side.
was a lot of parking and housing. So it's like,
Yeah.
Not
Catherine
really.
and I had conversation after this came in, and we felt that in terms of what we wanted to change about how housing is approached, we wanted to have some kind of a community process where people had input. And what, you know, if we had a piece of property, what would people like to see there? What would priorities be? And yes, it might take a little longer to get to an RFP that way, or an RFQ, or a SOW, or whatever it is, but it took 10 years of fighting to get
Right.
Woodstock Commons. It won't add that much time, not that much time, to have a community visioning, and then we'll get some buy-in, hopefully. So that would be, I think, when we get to the point of where we go next, that would be our strong recommendation.
Well, while we were there, by the way, we were across from the sewage treatment plant. There is a house on 212,
Mhm.
that big stone wall there. And the woman who lives there saw us all standing there with our cars there, and
you saw us walking around the property.
she said, "What's going on?" You know?
Yeah.
And you know, we were talking about affordable housing, not low income housing. Basically, we kind of clarified that, and I don't know if she was pleased, you know, mollified by that or what, but she was kind of like, you know, suspicious.
She was on the defense, I would
Gonna
say.
build an airplane landing strip there. Just
Right.
that, you know, just,
It happened.
we'll look really good after that. Deborah, and then
40-story high rise we're planning.
Okay, so I just really a quick comment, and this is something I think we all need to be cognizant of, especially now that we're doing outreach. Dennis Larios is an engineer. He's not a planner. He's not an architect. He's not a designer, and he doesn't deal with community process. So I think Catherine and Susan are spot on. And plus we have new zoning coming in. So again, it's an opportunity to think in those terms as we move forward.
yeah, great.
Definitely.
So one step at a time. Keep it all under your hats, please.
I definitely second or whatever the motion to
No
engage the
motions.
community and do a vision thing.
Yeah,
I think that's,
sure. Yeah,
you know, bring them to the table from the beginning.
absolutely.
I 100% agree with that approach.
Right. So let's backtrack. Kirk's here now, so let's do the first piece, which is the informational session on draft zoning and subdivision.
Right.
And my apologies for my tardiness. I lost track of time, and I'm very sorry for being late.
We reserved your spot.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you for.
We took care of everything else, Kirk, but we knew that we had important stuff to hear from you, so we held off.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's see. I wanted, oops. I don't know where we want to start except to say that we're actually pleased that we've reached this step where we've officially submitted the work of the Housing Oversight Task Force to the town board, and that they unanimously accepted it by resolution to begin a formal review process by the county planning department as required by law, and the town planning board that's required by law. So that's very positive. They also said, yes, it's a big, I agree.
Big deal. We started this 4 years ago. It's fucking huge.
Well, 2 years of the task force operating virtually, you know, pedal to the metal to get it done and to do it responsibly. So I think that's number one. Number two, the town board is having at their May 9th town board meeting an information session and discussion that the Housing Oversight Task Force is, because we only had a short presentation. It was longer than we anticipated, but we're putting together a PowerPoint. We're going to be talking about more of the issues, some of the documents like that flyer that we gave you for Earth Day, which also was available to the press. But the press had other things on their minds, so nothing really got in the paper about it. So we have an opportunity on May 9th to really start a different kind of conversation. And I just want to say, I think, thank you for the Earth Day table. That was a huge opening for us to be able to have direct contact with people in the community and talk about it. So I think it's kind of like it's a process that began on the 18th. And now we're moving into the next phase. And I think what we wanted to talk to you about is how we think the housing committee, as having been really spurned or spawned this whole effort to get it into a rezoning effort, can and really must be helping us to create advocates for housing based on the changes that we're proposing. So, and the emphasis again that we're doing is really bringing the community and housing into harmony with the environment. That was our theme. And I think I'm going to stop talking and let Kirk, ask Kirk to put in his comments along those lines. And he and I talked a little bit about it, but we really want to find out what's the best way to make this happen.
Deb, can I clarify something? May 9th, is that there's a presentation? And
It's a town board meeting. It's a regular town board meeting at which the Housing Oversight Task Force will make a presentation, a more detailed presentation about the housing and the zoning and subdivision drafts. And then there will be, as I understand it from Bill, there will be discussion.
With the public. Public will be able to ask questions? That's
my understanding. And right, so having people at that meeting is, having people at the last meeting was less, that was more perfunctory in terms of the resolution. This is really the beginning of the interactive process.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, Deborah, thanks. That was very comprehensive. I think not much more needs to be said other than to acknowledge Urena. It has been 4 years since we started talking, the subgroup of the housing committee started talking about zoning and the need for zoning changes. And then we were able to gracefully wrestle away the housing zoning portion away from the zoning revisions committee, and that was a very important shift that enabled the task force to begin to, as Deborah put it, pedal to the metal, so to speak, with working with Nan Stoltenberg, who was awesome in her contributions and her collaboration with us. And I think many of us on the task force didn't realize to what extent the task force would be needing to interpret what Nan put together, but there was a tremendous amount of need for the task force to get into the weeds a lot with what Nan had written, and we evaluated everything, including the comments that came back from version 1. So it was a very what's the word?
Intense.
Very intense, but also intentional. To make sure that the input that was coming back to us was really seriously considered, and everything we did. So, in spite of what people thought, which it was implied that we were working in isolation, that was further. It couldn't be further from the truth. We worked really hard to consider everything that was given to us from the community, from the boards and committees. And then fortunately, we also had the opportunity to have the entire revised code evaluated by John Lyons, which was a land use lawyer. And then that too became a very critical step, because that we knew we had legal eyes on the entire code and all the revisions that were made. So two other things that are coming is we were told not to submit it on the 18th, but we will be submitting it. I think, Deborah, we will be talking about submitting is our recommendations of non-zoning policy recommendations to the town board, which includes a number of things like building incentives, and that supports housing. So it's policy. A big part of this is policy that needs to happen. And then also the housekeeping elements of the code, where there's a tremendous amount of effort that was put in to evaluate the code from outside of our structure of our project. So there's a long list of things that we're going to be giving to the town board for them to hopefully pass over to the zoning revisions committee. But I want to echo what Deborah said about advocacy. I think personally, advocacy is probably the most challenging thing, and that really is required. And I can't imagine anyone better suited to helping create advocacy than this group here. You are all equipped and have the passion for housing in this community, and to find a way to not only speak with people, and convey the elements of the code and the meaning of the code, but to solicit their own commitment from them. That's an extra step that even during the meeting we had on Saturday, I remember mentioning advocacy to this one person, and she said, well, I could clearly see that I had gone too far with her, right? She was, I'm in support of this, and then I said, well, we're going to need your support going forward, and I could see, it was like too soon, too much too soon.
Right.
And so that advocacy is probably the true fruit of the efforts that this committee can yield in its efforts. So I believe that it's something that you guys all need to hold as an outcome in your efforts. And it goes beyond education, it goes beyond information conveying. It really does kindle and create solidarity amongst our community. And that's really needed.
We'll be discussing some details of that later on. There was one aspect that, because it's collaborative, that we did want to discuss while you were here, which is the public facing meeting that we had been talking about for a while, that would be an effort that we would do. And if the Housing Oversight Task Force is going to be present and able to speak and answer questions and whatever, then we should pick a date and get to designing what that will be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My thought.
I agree as well. I think the task force participating would be great, and also the planning of it to some extent. I mean, just as we're now putting together this PowerPoint, we're getting input from the task force staff, and we have the May 9th meeting with the town board. I think we'll have, we can decide how we want to participate, obviously, with the meeting, but at least have some presence, if not, be available, or what's gonna. So what I just wanted to bring up about that is, and we can talk about this later, I just underscore what Kirk said about how we need the housing committee as the place that really has looked at housing from all sides now, variation on the song, and can bring that forward. And just as Kirk found, the woman he spoke with was kind of like overwhelmed. There is so much material. We sent it all to you because we want, obviously, it's on the town website. It's all corrected now, Catherine. We want everybody to see all of that, but there are parts of it, the highlights and the things that are really most critical to help the everyday Woodstocker understand. And that's because if they can understand it and say, yeah, this is the kind of town I want to be in, then hopefully that will translate into support for these proposed laws.
Okay. Anybody else before we start discussing?
Yeah, can I just say something on the back of that? When we were at Earth Day and at the table, and we had those really good infographics that were sort of, powerful. And I think that, when you look at the documents, I mean, I've sat and read through them and everything, and they're very, they're dense, and it's, we've got to, it's like, how do we put out the key messages? And I noticed on sort of our outreach plan, again, there's social media and people's attention span is short. And so I just kind of thinking about how, we can get some representation of interesting and important information out in a way that is compelling, captures people's attention, that sticks with them, and that isn't overwhelming. And I just kind of, wondering, if we could do that.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Very, very good point. We need to convey a complexity in a simple way, and that's a big challenge.
Yeah. I saw a little, I think maybe it's a minute and a half, maybe it's a 5 minute, I can't remember, I got to find it, video that was created from a, I don't know, 600-page report to the UN. And, you know, it just went right to the heart of what people needed to understand about the impact. And I think, you know, that's sort of the way, the lens we have to keep looking at it with. We're not going to convey all of this detail. Somebody has a question, we're going to direct them, that's in the weeds, we're going to direct them to talk to somebody on the task force probably. But I mean, yeah, I think we're going to try to figure out the messaging. That's our job, which we will tackle. Can we look at dates for this event so we can start to plan? We can get a newsletter out at least that reserves the date. Your presentation is on the 9th. There is a candidates night on June 5th.
Oh.
So, which I just learned yesterday. We thought, Catherine and I thought maybe we could sneak in like May 20th, after your initial presentation, but before the.
I'm not sure about that date.
Yeah, that's why we're, you know, throwing things out here, because I think Catherine and I can't, if we're talking about a Saturday.
Oh, okay. I will not be here that
You're not there
Saturday.
That one.
And
No,
nor will, I'll be here on the 20th, but
Right.
I'll be leaving on the 21st.
Yeah, and I absolutely can't be here on the 20th. I'm sorry.
So then we're not able to do anything till after the candidates night,
Eek.
which is not the
what-
best.
Why can't we do the 27th of May?
Well, neither Catherine nor I think
Oh.
Park's away,
That's Memorial Day weekend.
and it's
This-
Memorial Day weekend. It's not a good weekend to do
Right.
anything.
And do you want to do it on a Saturday so you get weekenders, or what's the reason for Saturday?
Yeah, we could do an evening. I mean, yeah, we haven't decided anything. So it's just,
Okay.
we were
What
looking
do you
initially.
people think? What time and day would be?
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
On this draft zoning outreach plan that you gave out, that I have in front of me, on Tuesday, there says May 9th, and then it says date to be scheduled, which is the Hot Forest is doing an informational meeting in the community center, and then June date to be determined.
What document are you looking at? What document?
Hearing.
What document are you looking at?
Everybody on
Draft
Tuesday.
plan, the draft.
The draft zoning outreach plan.
Oh, okay.
So the date to be scheduled, May 20th to June 3rd, that's what we're talking about right now.
But there were, yeah.
Then there's another one in June, so we're talking about June and June.
What do you mean another one in June?
What are you talking about?
Draft zoning outreach plan.
Right.
Maybe you can't see that. I don't know how to.
We have it. So
Okay.
you're seeing.
There's May 9th. Under that is date
Yep.
to be scheduled, which
Right.
is between May 20th and the 3rd.
Right.
That is a Housing Oversight Task Force Community Center Informational Meeting Hybrid.
Right.
Then there's another one under it says June date to be determined, public hearing hosted by the town board.
Right.
That's another public hearing, like.
It's a
meeting.
different thing. That's a
Different
form.
thing.
That's a legal public hearing.
Right,
That
so
the town
that's
board-
just, there is no presentation, nothing at
Correct.
all.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a
Right.
formal
That's
legal,
exactly.
and we
Okay.
don't have a date for that. That's set by the town board.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted clarification.
Yeah.
And
And
then
the same-
also that public comment period could be multiple over a period of time. There may be a public comment period during one town board meeting in June, but that would be later June, Urena, and because it would have to be around roughly 60 days plus after the 18th of April. When we have to have back from the county and back from the planning board.
Well, the town does. We
Yeah.
don't get them. And this
Yeah.
is another thing. So those documents now, the draft laws are in the town board's hands. So
Right.
they're technically not in our hands until they come back to us and say, we got the stack of comments. We had a public hearing. We'd like the Housing Oversight Task Force to look at these comments, and maybe they'll flag the ones they want us to look at. The other thing about Urana, that June date to be determined. So the end of the review period is also, would come after the public hearing, and we don't know precisely when.
Right.
So, right, so those are still, again, to be determined by the town. And that
Right.
has to do with when they get comments back from the county, et cetera.
But the area that we're talking about specifically tonight, right here, is the middle one, the one where it says a
Yeah.
public information session or a public community meeting, which is after the May 9th.
Right.
And that's up to the housing committee. That's up to this group here
Right.
to bring about and facilitate. And so settling on a date around that is what I think is
Yes.
what Susan's trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So,
So it's gonna be June, is that what you're saying? That
Wait, Urana?
on May 9th,
Yes.
is that going to be like last year where Nan and you guys do a deck, like a PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, to some extent, except
Yeah.
we don't know how much time the town's going to give us
Right.
for the discussion and what that's going to be.
Right. Howard, you had a question?
I just wanted to clarify, May 9th is when, that's the presentation by the
Task force,
To the town.
and that's at the
Board.
community center.
no,
No.
No, not at the
That'll
community.
be at the Como property.
That's a town board meeting.
that's
Okay.
unless they change the venue, it's at
Yeah.
Como.
Okay, that's a town board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the candidates night is when, the following week?
June 5th, Monday,
June
June
5th.
5th.
So what about June 3rd, the Saturday just before it? Why
I
not?
can't be there, but
I
You
can't
can.
either. I
Oh,
can't, neither one of us could be there
okay,
on Saturday.
okay.
How do people feel about an evening, you know?
I'm
Six
fine
to
with it.
9.
after Memorial Day or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you're away, you guys are away. Well, the candidates night's the 5th.
Hmm.
Wait,
So,
when are you away? When are we blocked out we can't use? Between, you said May 20th?
well, we all have different times we're gonna
well,
be
it's the
away,
two of you
unfortunately.
really that are going away for a chunk of time.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I'm only gone the 1 week between the 20th, 21st and the 27th of May, and then Deborah leaves for an extended period of time beginning in the second week of June.
Right, but I'm gone the May 19th, 20th, and 21st.
Yeah.
I'm out of state.
So,
Yeah, so we can't change
but
that.
other than that,
So,
we should
What
try to
about
make
the
something happen.
18th?
I can't do the 18th either. I have a prior commitment.
So, well, what about right
What about the
after
second? What about Friday the 2nd?
Friday the 2nd or the 1st?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would work.
Thursday
Yeah.
the 1st?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do
We
it
think it-
Thursday, people.
I don't think people want to go on a Friday night, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thursday night's fine.
Thursday, we think a midweek Thursday is a better.
Mhm.
I mean, we
However, wait a minute. Thursday's planning board meetings.
not
And
always though.
Judy Berman, wouldn't they want to be there?
Let's find out. We have to find out if there's a meeting that night.
I think it's every single Thursday.
No.
No, it's not
Every other
no?
Thursday, it's the first and third or second and fourth. I'm not sure which.
Right.
I think it's first and
Okay.
third.
I'm gonna check it.
Yeah.
No, I thought
Okay.
they were every Thursday. So
Um,
possibility is June
1st.
1st.
Yeah.
They do have a planning board meeting scheduled on June 1st.
Mhm.
That starts at 6 o'clock.
So that would mean the first and third are their meetings.
Okay.
The first and third Thursday.
Right,
So we
right.
could go out
How
from
about-
there and figure
How
that
about-
out.
Well, what about the 31st?
Of
Wednesday,
May,
June,
Uh,
May 31st, yeah,
May 31st.
That would work.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays are good.
I just
Yeah.
I'd like to get in before the candidates night.
I think the
Mm.
31st would be good because it's close enough to May 9th that it'll be fresh in people's minds.
Right.
There will have been some press written, and they'll also give the housing committee an opportunity to spread the word.
So we'll need to get, newsletter. We'll get our timeline in order, but we'll get the venue first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think that would be
that
great.
would be great. Right.
And this meeting is meeting with the public?
Yes, it would be a community meeting at the community center that the housing committee would be lead on. The only thing that you're gonna have to do first thing in the morning is check with Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And if we can't do it at the community center, we could do it at town hall probably, but.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Oh, not on a Wednesday though.
No?
Well, they do,
Court?
it depends, they have court nights every
Court
other,
night.
I don't know what.
I'll check.
What about the
Check that
Woodstock Elementary School as another option?
We'll find a venue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to mention one more fact before we end this, is that the task force has written a thank you note to the town board for passing of the resolution. And that will also be featured in a letter to the editor this coming week in the Hudson Valley One, just a FYI. And we're anticipating there's going to be something written by Nick Henderson in this week's paper.
There was nothing in this week's paper, Kirk, from Nick, and I haven't seen the letters yet.
Okay, all right.
But
we'll see what happens.
We'll contact him.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
He's going to report. He's going to be reporting on the town board meeting
on the 18th. We were hoping that there was going to be something written about the 18th, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be written about on the 9th. If they know that that's going to be happening, they'll focus on reporting it then.
There's a lot going on last week.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think they're probably going to wait to your presentation on the 9th.
Yeah, the 9th. Yeah.
I think that's what he's waiting for.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move on, see if we can stick fairly well to the agenda.
Okay. Well,
thanks
everyone.
We'll set up a time to talk about, we'll get some ideas together and then we'll talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great. Looking forward to working with you.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Kirk.
All righty.
Bye.
Good to see everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Bye.
Okay, next up is the Granicus update. Don't all jump in at once. Deborah, Urena, Laura.
Okay.
It was good.
Do you want me to say something?
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So following Deborah, Urena and I meeting to sort of, pull together everything we'd found out, we finally got to meet with Bill this morning and sort of present back that information to him, with a view to sort of, seeing when and how and if he might, there might be a way forward to get the short-term rental law updated sooner rather than later. I think it's fair to say that the meeting went well, and that actually the key things that we did present to Bill, I can't think of one thing where he was questioning the principles and the actual recommendations that we were making. We also, in terms of the Granicus, how we might move forward, Deborah presented information, talked about, the sort of plans that were in motion or afoot at the county and state level. But I think what we were hoping to impress on Bill, and I think he heard, was the fact that there's going to be a gap in time between what's happening now and what any new, sort of changes that can be made at a broader level that would help to move the situation forward in town. So with that in mind, we gave him the figure. I don't know if everyone picked up on it, but Samantha from Granicus, did everyone see the revised figure that she emailed to us? Because the original quote she gave for all the modules, the 5 modules that are available to sort of help with with the short-term rental situation, it was 31,000 to buy them. But then what she did was she came back with a figure of just over 18,000, which takes sort of account of what, the count, because of the current sort of shared, initiative. What Bill was quite clear about and or felt strongly about was that given how much Woodstock town, you know, how much revenue it generates to the county, that we should be looking to the county to cover that cost. But he, in terms of thinking about next steps or way forward, he suggested that to streamline the process and get things moving, that we had to go, well, we redraft a new ordinance just to have something, you know, on paper, rather than just go to the county with the list of recommendations about how things could change and might change, to actually sort of take something that might look like, you know, a revised document and take it from there. And it was, and I don't, forgive me, but I don't know. I know that, yeah, Deborah, I know.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
ones?
So just a little bit more information on that. So there are two aspects to it. One is that he said there is no money in the budget. This budget for this year is done. So even considering any contract with Granicus this year was out of the question. That would be in a future budget. But he did say he would write to Jen Metzger and ask her specifically to have the county address this additional, these additional modules to expand the county's use of Granicus to help towns like Woodstock, because we get a very small portion of the county tax that's collected, and to what Laura said. But the other thing is that Urena brought up the potential to have Granicus do an assessment of our current law. Is that an audit, right? Was that Urena?
Yeah.
And the idea of we could also pay to have them rewrite it. And Bill said he would like to see us have something that's revised and then have it reviewed by the guy at Granicus or somebody like him, so that what they were going with was not the old law that we know needs to be updated. I wasn't clear how we get from that to that new revised draft.
Interesting.
So Bill was asking if our committee would come up with the revised STR regulations.
No.
Is that what?
No, and that was the not clear part. I don't know, Urena, did you?
So to me, the clear, so he wants, so the next step is that he's giving our information and research and to the short-term rental task force. Short-term rental task force will do more work or whatever to create a revised amendment, he called it.
Amendment
to the law.
Thank you.
At that point, it won't go through the legal process yet. He thinks that it's just the idea of the wiser, just to add to what Deborah and Laura were saying, is at that point we call in, Granicus has the gentleman named Jeffrey. Remember him, Howard? Jeffrey, the guy's name was Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Anyway, he works for Granicus and he'll do a free audit of the laws. Then we'd have to pay him as a consultant, just like Nan Stolzenberg, to rewrite the laws. But they will do a free audit of the laws. He just wants to maximize that by saying, let's do all the work first, have it written up, then have him look it over and tell us what to fix. So maybe we don't need to pay him. We don't need to hire him.
Well, also we could keep it moving faster, and he thought this amendment idea could happen in parallel with the zoning updates.
Right. But I will say, just to add to kind of what everything you guys said, I just have a couple of notes. What was really encouraging is because he's been very defending the hard work that the building department has done, because they've been under a lot of criticism. And so a couple of things that they're doing. So it was really great that he was very open-minded to it. He really listened to what we were saying. I had a bunch of notes about there's the 5 modules, and I did like my quick notes for the meeting, and I gave it to Melinda to copy, and so they could take that home and Laura had an extra copy of her notes, so they can kind of look at that, you know, while we're not there. So that was good. He's totally down with it, because one of the things we recommended is said, you know, Hinchy, it might not happen. And she wants to create, basically, she goes a little bit farther, but she wants to create what I call a generic Granicus. And so, but that might, first it's got to pass in the law, and then they got to create this tool, and then they got to test it out before we get to it. So that might not be for a year or two. And I just really recommended, like, let's sign on for a year with Granicus, and then we'll do another year, and then we'll learn from that experience and get our shit together. And then we can, you know, take on the county if it's cheaper, or the state if it's cheaper. His only real sticking point is, like, we have no money. We wouldn't be able to do it till next year if we could fit that into the budget. But right now, the county could do it and give it to us and have us in it. So that's where our low-hanging fruit, shall we say, is one of our favorite sayings around here in the housing committee. Our low-hanging fruit is to go to the county, Jen Metzer. So I think Deborah and him are going to do a meeting to do that. So that was really good. I think the other piece is he was talking about, he's actually already started the process that they're working on the fees. Fee schedules across all of the zoning laws. So this was actually good news all around. So not just with short-term rental, but they're going through all of the zoning laws and going over the fees, because Howard and Laura, I don't know if you know, and I don't know if you know, Catherine, they were like last written in 80s. So, you know, when you look at, and I don't know if you've seen any of that, it's so inexpensive. It's like $25 fine, things like that. So that's really good. And so he's gonna put that in there as well. And then
he said that fee structure is going to be in place by the end of the summer as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Who said that? Bill said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last point I wanted to say is there's that fear, because I felt it when we had our meeting with the building department. I felt that one of the things I said is, this is not a gotcha moment. We're just trying to, you know, understand and learn. And I think there's sometimes a little bit of a defensive, you know, fear about computers taking over and robots taking over people's jobs. And so I think that is not the case, and it's more of a restructure, removing around to utilize this AI equipment in a sense, and this company, and have them do all that hard work. We would still retain our part-time 20-hour, you know, he works 40 hours, 20 hours, half-time is on short-term rental, William. The other 20 hours he works for the town. And then the other 2, which is Angela and the assistant, I forgot her name.
Kristen.
Help to support Butch, because there's all these other enforcement issues we have in the town. So that no one's going to lose a job. I think it will strengthen our building department, I think, because they'll have more time to work on other issues. So he I think he heard that. I'm done.
Nice.
Yeah, so I just want to say, I think, you know, there's this tendency, is a knee-jerk thing, to be defensive. And obviously not just on the STRs, but on other issues. The Housing Task Force found that enforcement was like the #1 thing that was really lacking across the board. I'm a little concerned about putting a date of end of summer for when those fees are going to be changed, Howard. For the record, I think it's really just that Bill is having all the fees that are in the zoning law looked at, and that he anticipates to get input from the town attorney over the summer. And obviously that's going to be shared with the town board in whatever process he's going to come up with.
Did you
maybe it's a goal.
Yeah, I read somewhere where the county is contemplating raising the tax from 2% to 4%.
Yeah.
Right, but that doesn't come to Woodstock. Correct. And they have to go to the state legislature to get approval to raise it from 2 to 4%. Assuming that happens, the way that's distributed is it's by population, by town. So Woodstock, having a small population but a huge impact of short-term rentals, kind of gets the short end of the stick.
Right.
Does our population include the the people who don't live here? It's
No.
only people who vote here.
It's not our population.
Only the voters.
5,800 people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we need to, just because Howard and Laura are new, we need to be careful in our minutes that we don't attribute things that happen in private casual meetings with any town officials in our minutes, because they're not
Even though we're
official
being
statements.
recorded right now.
So
and
should I
everybody
not put in the
can see it.
minutes about Bill
Right.
looking over the
Right,
fees?
yeah, fair enough. I
can
hear
look it
that.
over the
He
fees.
Not
did
put that in
actually
or put
say
that
that.
in?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and thank you for that learning point. I mean, he did say by the end of someone, I
It's a
wrote it
goal.
down, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Howard, I would write as a goal, the
Yeah.
goal is, but that's
The-
not.
The goal is to review the fees, period.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, accurate.
Fair enough.
The goal, and that reviewing the fees, that's Bill doing that.
Bill, the supervisor's office or the town
Mhm.
reviewing the fees.
Right.
I mean,
think
they've been hearing it
building
enough.
department, yeah, everybody, they're
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
everybody.
Um,
Zoning revisions. But that had to go to Deborah. We did ask the question, was there, with fees, like how high can you go?
mhm.
All
So
right.
some of the zoning, that was kind of part of the discussion, some of the zoning revision stuff that has come up in all the different areas that the town has been working on. Some things were like, might be unconstitutional, so high.
Yeah.
And some might be,
Yeah.
too low or whatever. So they're just kind of going over what already has been done and what needs to be done.
Right.
And it's like a goal of by the end of summer to have it. Like, let's
It's
get it
great.
done.
Yeah,
It's a
that
really
would be-
good goal.
Yeah. Unless there's something that I haven't seen, if we could skip the consultant update, because I don't think we have a revised anything.
No,
from
we're
Kai, right?
waiting,
So,
we're waiting for Kai again.
yeah, so it's
Wait,
no point in
I have a
discussing it.
question though, because we are doing outreach and we could really use a professional consultant for outreach right
They know.
now.
Yes, we
They
could,
know. They know.
but we don't have one. And, but they do know that
They are
we're in a hurry.
absolutely. Yes, they know that we're in a hurry. And I guess the only thing I would say that is that this is not, so everything that he sends to us goes to Bill.
Mhm.
So Bill, as the supervisor and chief executive officer of the town,
Mhm.
is responsible for these kinds of arrangements with the county.
Okay.
So he has reviewed and is signing off on everything.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Not just between us and Guy. Okay.
No.
All right. Oh well. So
Yeah.
we'll table that.
But he's been good
discussion.
he's said yes to everything we said.
Great. Good. We will take that up at the next meeting. And if it doesn't help us through this particular zoning revision advocacy, it's going to be for our first building project. It's going to be useful. So we just don't know when. So
We're hoping that he'll expedite it. He understands the urgency.
Okay, good.
Yeah, what's the reaction of the committee to the fact that Bill is not running for supervisor again?
I would rather us not talk about it.
Yeah,
on
that's
recording,
something we
that the
should
whole town's gonna
talk
watch
about.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we
Okay.
should not talk about that in our
All right.
meeting.
I didn't ask.
Yeah.
That's okay, sorry.
And that brings us to a quick discussion, hopefully, of the social media policy, which I took out all the pictures and links and whatever was in there, and just the nine record. This was from a business point of view, but I think the town does not have a social media policy, and
They should.
we could be first out of the gate. It's important for us to, to be clear about how we put things out and what we put out. And it's the fine line between who we are as people in a small town and what we are officially that we're trying to walk. That's the hard one. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a struggle, and I think it's something, it's kind of like also with meetings and comportment in meetings and how easy it is for us to lose sight of, and we need to be reminded. So starting with a set of policies or guidelines is great, because things move very fast in social media, and several of the conversations I had on Saturday actually revolved around things that were completely not official communications. They were just between people, but they had huge impact, and they went very far and wide. So I think it's something the town needs and we need.
Yeah.
I would say this is I think maybe a helpful reference to start, but we got to remember we're not employees. We're actually volunteers. We're a little more in a casual world. It's not, it's not the same. There's certain things here that were a little harsh, I felt like, and some things that were completely like great, like number 5. I'm like, yep, I've been saying that for years. Can everybody be engaged? Like go like it, love it, all that stuff. I think that maybe the 2 issues that I find, like, I think we really actually need to rewrite our own.
Oh, sure. This is not offered
so
as something to adopt
here, but I think we need to create our own. And the 2 things, I mean, obviously things like being respectful, these are, put it in there, but I think that that's a given. But I think there's a difference. There's something. So an example, when Laura and Deborah and I were in a subgroup, we were in our subgroup meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were just sort of having a discussion, and we did talk about some social media and stuff going on. And there's just stuff out there. There's so much misinformation out there, and the impact of one post in a thread with the AI of that, Facebook has intense AIs. Instagram is also owned by Facebook. And, and then there's the other one, but I don't go there. And so what happens is it like sends it off, and the more that people are engaged, the more it becomes. And they set it up too, of you have to go and manually click all comments. Sometimes they go top comments, most interested comments, you know what I mean? Like you have to, and people don't know that. I'm constantly telling people all the time about that. So there, you have to understand the AI and the fact that it's moving fast. That one post is got this weird, like so many hours, literally. And now 100, 1,000, whoever, so many people, could be 3, have seen something that is misinformation. And I think Laura had said, just in general, and it was such a good point, is like, where's the accountability? Like, how do we make this, information that's being passed around by whomever in our town, how do we make them accountable, or the information accountable, corrections? Because it goes so fast. It's faster. We've always been a town of word of mouth. We had our own Yelp system before computers came along. It was word of mouth, and you banned a place, that was it. That place closed down. We don't do that. I mean, it's different now, but there's still that. You have this post that has misinformation, inaccurate. What do you do? So it's tough, because if I feel like it's our job as outreach, it's an arm of our job to correct misinformation. Now, is it one person? Is it all of us? Is it some of us on some of the topics more than others? Are they available to jump and do that? Do we ignore it? Do we write, in my humble opinion, IMHO - say what you say? But part of the validity of Susan, you saying, or Howard or Deborah, or Catherine or Laura, myself, or Kirk for that matter, Judy Kerman, when they say something in response, they are coming from a place of where they have done the research, are up on the topic, do know the information, they're part of that group, and then that's public knowledge. And so they have to, so on one hand, they're like, well, I'm saying in my own opinion, but yet what holds water is that I do know what I'm talking about. When someone, wants to go, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, actually, I do, because we did the research. but you're not talking for the whole group. Like, it's very difficult.
Well, I think that's the clarity that we need to develop. I don't know, is whether it's in my humble opinion, which is an opinion, or is it a fact?
Yeah.
And that is, a fact comes from the committee, an opinion comes from a person. We're going to do a couple more minutes and then we got to switch to the zoning outreach. So this is an ongoing topic.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Deborah?
Okay, so I'll talk very fast. So I think the town has a responsibility on this issue. And I think, and I don't know if it's appropriate for the housing committee to make a recommendation to the town, just as they do with like agreements on when you serve on a town appointed committee, you conduct in a certain way, because Urena's right. There's a lot of misinformation. People aren't accountable. Things happen very fast. And it's probably an impossibility to catch everything everywhere without it turning into a major brouhaha. So I guess, I mean, this may sound like a stupid approach, but maybe it's just bringing it out into the open that might help stop, or at least put it out in public, that this is a problem. People need to take care about what they say, check their facts when they're out when they're involved in things in the town, right? Because there is a responsibility to be, you know, to be responsible. And at the same time, I guess we can develop our own code of conduct as a committee.
Can I just ask one quick question then? Because following on from what you said, Deborah, we are a town. We are related to the town. We are a town committee.
Right.
It feels to me as if all committees or all groups that are in some way affiliated with the town or serving the town should be a part of a cohesive set of guidelines and a cohesive policy. And I just wonder if there is a town social media.
No, there isn't.
And if there is if not, then how could everybody get together and somehow at least start that conversation, so we're not just sitting here being out and someone else is doing something else, because really it should come from the top down and radiate out, and then that I think will help to negate some of this where we're all sitting there trying to pop down each, you know, all these things that
We could ask if the ethics committee has considered taking this on, since this seems to be more their bailiwick than anyone else's.
I would just recommend that there's some research, and maybe I'll have a look, and I don't know if anybody else wants to also have a look, to kind of look around, because this was about what not to do and protections and whatever, a little bit of what to do, but it's not. I understand what you're saying, Deborah, and I know, Susan, we tend to want to like stronger when we have everybody has a hand in what the press is that we put out as a committee, but there's just not enough time to do that with social media. And the thing is you have certain eyeballs on this group of eyeballs here, and then you go over here and you write something that with the AI doesn't necessarily get to those people. So whatever portion numbers, they're going to completely miss out on our organized, which then is not going to happen within 24 hours. So I feel like it'd be great. And I was thinking ethics committee as well, but I think it's also like, we need to do a little research. And I think this is a whole new thing. It's new technology. We have to think outside of the box. Maybe someone else has dealt with this in the world and it's on the internet, but I think that there might be, and if the ethics committee doesn't have anyone that values or understands or uses the social media well enough to understand it, I don't know that they're the right people either. Like, I feel unless they do enough research and know in real time what that means and how would that work? You know what I mean?
Right. It's
But Howard, just give
Just
us-
one
So,
question,
Howard, yeah.
has this been brought up with the town, with people, with at all? I mean, is this something that's just that we're recognizing, or has the town even mentioned this?
we were the first ones to ever have any social media, and it was because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then the WEC
Yeah.
and they took it further. They have their own they've gone off and done their own thing. I think they're even getting their own website. They're working on their own website.
Mm-hmm.
So we have nothing. And the only thing that Deborah was saying earlier in our meeting, there is a volunteer. You go onto the town page and there's like volunteer in the handbook, but it's just a couple or one page. It's not, I don't even know if I think it might still have Wilbur on it, like it's not quite updated. I think it says like, get along.
Yeah.
Right.
Do your work, show up on time, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's principles, and then there's how do we practice? And so that's, what are some strategies for dealing with this when we're not ever going to monitor 24 hours or even 12 hours a day? So what are some strategies for doing this? And some research would be very welcome. That'd be great. The zoning outreach for the last part here. Catherine, you want to?
Well, we've already gone through the timeline, so that's good. And we're we have May 31st now,
Okay.
we hope, for this informational meeting, which I'm not sure how we figure out what we're going to be doing. I mean, I don't think it would hurt for the Housing Oversight Task Force to do a short presentation again, and then just to answer questions, right? And maybe it's just as simple as that. And of course, we'll have tons of handouts.
I think this is a good time to ask for money from the town on a budget to do more of the infographics, and picking different sections, and then having, because it's just so text heavy. As a 20-year English as speakers of other languages, you're teaching a different language. This is a different language. And best practices always says visuals, and that you can explain and understand and comprehension levels with visuals much higher than a bunch of words. We have all different levels of folks that are actually native speakers, but they're at different levels of reading comprehension and vocabulary. And a lot of this is also technical terminology.
Which is hard to illustrate, by the way. So, Deborah?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Because we're working on a new PowerPoint now, the task force is. The one we did last year was actually pretty good. Nan and I and Kirk worked on it together, and Catherine gave us some images. So it has a combination of words and images. One of the documents that we have, and I'm going to think of a couple of things. One is I want to take this back to the task force and ask them what they think would be the most illustrative, because we have a short handout.
Illustrative mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
It illustrates it. It illustrates
something that illustrates a picture. Okay. So we have one document and it's words. It's a chart. It's a little over 2 pages. It's the short chart of benefits, the major initiatives, and it shows benefits for housing and benefits for the environment. And I'm just off the top of my head thinking if we had some images to go with that, that's sort of a summary document, and it's a short one. And it's a highlights kind of thing. So maybe that's what we could focus on. And then if people have specifics, we could tell them how to review specifics. But,
the most commented on and popular thing on the table was certainly the posters that Catherine's daughter made, and it was just so easy to explain a conservation
Infographic.
development with these two things, and you know, who's housing for, and if we could take that summary and, you know, do the just, you know, do a slide for this and a slide for that and a slide for that and a slide for that, 10 slides that do the highlights, you know, that would be really great. I mean, we are not going to teach about the details of this thing. It's not going to happen, particularly if we want people to be able to ask questions. I think one of the purposes is to elicit what some of the concerns are. What are the things that people are afraid of when they hear about this? What are the things that people want to know about? And it isn't so much about us telling them everything. It's about being able to respond to what people are thinking and feeling. You know, it's in real.
As you're talking, I'm hearing Judith Kerman,
Yeah.
who's extremely good at putting things into clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that springs to mind as you sort of say that, because my background is in education, you know, and psychology as well. But it's just like when you have an infographic, what pops into my head is a thought bubble with the fear, you know, I'm worried about this or blah, blah, and then underneath some you know, comments or something that go towards, you know, addressing that. So you know, these, you know, like frequent fears expressed rather than frequently asked questions, but then out of that, you know, coming from it, because it automatically acknowledges that everyone's not alone. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway.
So to add to Laura, I was thinking also, I think the document you were talking about was handed out at the on Saturday, Deborah. It's the major recommended housing zoning initiatives benefits for housing and environment. Blue,
Yes,
blue.
Okay. That's the one.
So there's 13 sort of sections. And I had said this before, but one of the best practices when you're teaching and when I went to the comp plan, where they had it in the community center, and Susan was there and Nikki Goldbeck was there. And I know a couple other people. And after that, I don't remember anybody else. But there were 4 tables. Each one had, you remember that? Each one had, they had like, you know, a sheet where you could write
flip chart.
Thank you, flip charts and stuff, and a big table, and then each one had 2 topics for each. So we have 13, and we could have three of the tables would have 3 topics, and one table would have 4 topics. And we could break out, we could come together as whole group and then break out into engaging groups. So it's like centered teaching. Laura, you're with me? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, centers. And then also in those sections, we could have the infographics that go with. And one of the things that when we teach a new language, one of the first things you do is you teach vocabulary. And so you could break that out and create some visuals that go with that, whether it's an actual real live one or a cartoon looking one. But everyone has that reference sheet. So when we start talking about, you quickly pre-teach the vocabulary, and then you present the text, vocabulary in the text to the whole group and discuss. And things like you can do fears, you can do all sorts of things. You can break down that session into those different parts. And then at the end, we pull it together, and then it's a report, and someone's taking notes maybe. And we pull it together to report back out to the big group at the end of the meeting. Each table does that. And that's all, you know, very, you know, it's how we could get more into the weeds about it, but this is stuff we do. Anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's, then people get engaged. You can't have people sitting and listening. Right. It's not going to work. So maybe we can start, because this will be coming up. It's May 31st. If each of us can look through the document, the summary, and highlight words that you think people won't understand, concepts that people maybe will have trouble with, and ideas that we should be representing visually. And
Yep.
let's start to get some lists of what we need to focus on, because if we're going to have somebody do some, then we need to know how many of those we need, what they'll cost, and go to the town and ask for some money for that.
Yeah.
So
I don't think unless we're thinking of finding, I don't think my daughter can do it.
oh no.
Yeah, I know. There's not enough time, honestly. I gave her a lot of time to do the conservation subdivision. And
Okay.
that was very tight, but that was when she did the doodles for Who Needs a Photo.
I may be able to do and help some, but it doesn't, sometimes you can get a live picture. You go to Unsplash. It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
There's things to be done.
Yeah.
Let's start with the lists.
Yeah.
Which things need visual representation?
Yeah.
Which things just need definition? And what are the key elements that we'd have at these tables? Let's just focus on that.
Also, we could, in the meantime, put a blast out on our social media looking for a graphic design artist volunteer to help us with community outreach.
Or more than one. I mean, this is a big,
Yeah.
we'll be
We put
adding
an
this
S
for
on
one
it, but
person.
we can put that out and people can get back to please DM
Right.
us and just push it out
Yeah.
across the
Put it out at the School of Art, put it out at the high
I can-
school.
yeah.
Oh, the School
I
of
bet I
Art,
can do
that's a
that
good.
tonight, tomorrow, and then meanwhile, we're working on the side on the information, but as soon as
Yeah.
we can pull someone in.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to just say, I'm not going to volunteer her, but I know that Nan, she's not an artist, but she does have at her avail, I think, different images that she uses in different towns when she's done
Right.
zoning stuff,
Yeah.
like the conservation subdivision stuff.
Mhm.
And so there may be some things that
Right.
she can provide us, and I'll ask.
That
Yeah.
would be great.
That would be
Yeah, we could, nothing should preclude us from searching for other, I mean, we've had like the stuff that the Island Housing Trust,
Exactly.
we pulled from them. There's
Right.
stuff out there. Let's see what we can find.
Yeah.
So this is sort of an all hands
Great.
on deck.
Yeah.
See what you can find. And we'll pull it all together. We'll communicate. If you find stuff that we'll have to find a way to have a repository where this stuff lives, maybe.
I mean, you can do the Google thing, like you
Yeah.
can even do Google Sheets, which is a low level PowerPoint, but it is a way of sharing images and PDFs and different things. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't
I'm
know.
I'm a little overwhelmed by
Yeah,
documents.
I
at the
could
moment.
create a Google Drive for photos, and as long as everybody, if you dump it in there, I request, and I can show you if you allow me, but just to label the top. So if you know how you have a photo,
Mhm.
can I show you? Can someone give me really quickly? It takes 2 seconds. Give me sharing. Okay. So if you go here, see this? This is a photo.
Yep.
You get a photo, you pull it off. Like you can do really simply, you can go into Facebook, let me just say Island Land Trust. Is it Island Land Trust is what they're called?
No, it's the Island Housing Trust.
Oh.
Uh.
Well,
Or Missing Middle, maybe. See what they do.
okay.
Island Housing Trust. That's not there.
Housing Trust.
Here's Rhode Island Land Trust. Fine.
Okay,
Whatever.
fine.
So I
Whatever.
go into photos
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and I go
Just pick one.
like this. This looks great. Okay. I click on it and I drag it to the side.
Mm-hmm.
So however you guys want to do it, sometimes you can do Command Shift,
Copy.
a
whatever.
free and or free, and I can do a where'd that go? Hello, what happened there?
On the right there.
Down
All
in
right,
the
there we
bottom
go.
right.
Sorry. So I could do, and I could do a screenshot. So you see that up this side. Now, when you get this is all I'm asking. If you just just give me, where did this come from? This
Okay.
came from
Yeah.
the Rhode Island Land Trust. So you could even do this. You can pick this up. You could go like copy it,
Mm-hmm.
go up there. You just click on that till you see this.
Mm-hmm.
Put that,
Mm-hmm.
save and dump, and then you can take it and dump it. Then I know where it came from.
Okay, great.
That's good.
Good.
So,
That's
you know,
excellent.
same thing, like this is, you know, name it, you know, like,
Right.
oh, this is from the Healthy Yards. You could do it by hand too. Boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, and what I'll do is,
Just to
I
go
can
back.
create the drive.
Mm.
What would you like to everybody to call it?
Whatever. Just let us know what it is.
Zoning
Right
presentation.
now, what do you want to call it?
Zoning presentation.
Huh?
Well, zoning outreach.
Zoning outreach.
Uh,
Zoning outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
I think the Housing Oversight Task Force summary report, we could pull a lot of the main points from here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was our hope.
Yes. Yeah.
That was our
I
goal.
actually don't think this one is as helpful. This is the housing benefit and environmental benefit. This one
Yeah.
feels too summarized and too
Okay.
to me.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
we wrote the report, you know, a bunch of us. Nan put the other thing together because it was really to respond in many ways to what we heard in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
And people like charts.
Yeah.
I don't.
Can we target trying to get some variety of stuff together by, let's say, where are we at? This is the 26th, so by the 8th,
Sure.
May 8th.
Yep. I mean, yeah, I'll say yes. I can't speak
Well,
for
I mean,
anyone else.
We
But
we
in
can't
a-
go, you know, we need to get this
Yeah.
part, you know, done
Yeah.
so we know what we're working with. Then we have to pull,
Right.
then we have to see what we've got and what we want to do. So
Right.
if everybody can pull that part together, then if Urena and Catherine and I can start to, you know, hone in on this. And in the meantime, we'll make sure that we have a venue and we can start to lay out the timing of the event.
Right. That's
Which
great.
we have an outline of based on what everybody said. So I can time that out. I've done that a million times. So
How do you want to, how are we going to upload the, I mean, the visuals are easy in terms of we find, but what do we want to sort of put in here verbally in terms of, you know?
I would say I'll put in a Google document here and we just put in terms that might need definitions. If you have a definition, put it with it or something, but
yeah,
take a list of terms.
something that jumps out at you, and then we'll see, you know, how many duplicates there are, which is great. That means everybody's going to need to know what this is.
And use the summary documents and those things in our report versus the code. Just
let's not. We'll be
word to the wise.
Yeah, we'll be all bogged down if we start going into the code.
Yeah.
So let's use the summary documents.
How long is the time we're going to have on the whenever it was we said now? It's gone out of my
6
head.
to 9, probably 3 hours.
3 hours.
We're gonna have to have snacks. We're gonna have to have snacks.
Absolutely, have to have snacks.
You're talking about the May 31st?
Yeah. 6 to 9.
3 hour, 3 hour duration?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, you don't get.
Okay, see that I gave you guys a link. Do you see?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right.
And then here's a Google.
Can we have we need to close. It's 6 something or other, 35 something.
What do you want to call the duck? I'm trying to get this all done right this second.
Well,
Zoning
glossary
terms.
fine.
Terms.
That's
Good.
fine. Yep.
draft or whatever.
Do we want, that's all, we don't want to come up with any, we don't want to add at this point any ideas or anything that spring from
Sure.
that?
Yeah, let's make another document for ideas.
Wait, let's just put in concepts. Oh, you mean
Yeah.
for out
Yeah, terms and concepts, yeah, and then we
Okay.
could just, yeah.
Good.
Things that need fleshing out. Is that the
Yeah.
idea?
Well, it needs
Yeah.
defining, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, things that you've heard or that you heard at the Earth Day or something like that,
Yeah.
or questions,
Concerns,
people are asking questions,
Yep.
concerns.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Great. Who's going to move the close of the meeting?
Oh, wait, hold on. Jesus, come on now.
I
Concepts.
know we want
I
to
know you're
close.
dying to get out of here, but just give us a second here so
Right.
everybody knows it's all here, right?
Well,
Say something while you're typing.
go ahead. Go ahead,
Do you
Catherine.
think we should have a very brief meeting before this event?
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're
And
gonna have
just
to.
to get our act together and maybe to split up responsibilities, like somebody could call the radio stations and
Mhm.
tell them that this meeting's happening and this is happening in Woodstock, et cetera.
Yeah, we are definitely going to need to.
Yeah, I don't think we can wait for the
couple of
next housing
times.
committee meeting,
No.
which is on May 24th. So.
No, we can't. So maybe in 2 weeks we could try to schedule one.
17th
Well, I think that's leaving it really late.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the
Maybe
10th.
The 10th.
Oh, I think I can do the 10th.
Can we do the
I could
10th?
do the 10th.
Wednesday the 10th?
I'm not, I may be in Saratoga. I'm at a
Okay.
meeting, but
Well,
I don't know that, well, I'll do what I can.
yeah, I mean, you know, we'll have to, somebody's not going to be able to be there. It's okay.
Right.
We'll work it out.
Okay.
We'll be talking to you in between.
Okay.
So we're going to meet May 10th.
What time? 5?
We may not be able to get the town Zoom, but I could use my Zoom.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, we won't. Somebody else will be meeting then, I'm sure.
And I'm just going to say that we have a task force meeting next Tuesday. So I'm just going to recap, if I can, what's been discussed here.
Great.
Make sure everybody has that date
Mhm.
and any input. You
Yeah,
know, I think it would be really
absolutely.
important to give that
Great.
option.
Yeah, if anybody wants to contact us about this, that would be great.
Okay.
Happy to have
What?
ideas.
What was that? What was that? Wait, that last piece?
That if somebody from the Housing Task Force wants to
Oh,
give some ideas or whatever, that
Yeah.
we can do that. They can be in touch. That'd be great. So we're going to meet on the 10th and then again on the 24th.
Great. Thank
Great.
you.
All right.
No, I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. We got a lot done.
That's a
Yeah,
great meeting. Very
Yeah,
productive. Thank you, everyone. And
Okay.
thanks for doing this.
Wait, somebody, Susan, hang out.
I can't.
So Karen, Catherine, hang out. Somebody hang out.
Why do we need to
What?
hang out?
I gotta,
Hang out.
all right.
No, wait, I'm trying to, do we have a certain date that we said for this?
We're putting this in by the
8th of May.
8th, and we're gonna meet on the 10th. So maybe we should back that back a couple of days, maybe the 7th. So we have a couple of
Wait,
days to look at everybody's
zoning-
input.
Google Doc for terms
Mhm.
and Doc for terms and concepts. And we're doing, team, please. Add before
The 7th.
May.
May
7th.
7th.
May
May
7th.
7th.
Yep.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. I gotta run.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Urana.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Add.